Pose 316. Study Session 10. Focus on Nigeria. Introduction. One of the most important objectives of comparative methodologies as a course of study is to be able to adopt the knowledge acquired for comparative analysis of different countries and the numerous political and governmental systems that are operated there. Therefore, Nigeria as a country and political system, but more importantly, our place of residency and citizenship, should also be a major point of focus for students of comparative studies. Thus, this lecture is devoted to Nigeria. It is subdivided into 4 main sections. These are namely the parliamentary system, the presidential system, civil administration, and the military rule. Although there is no distinct section for the discussion of the adoption and practice of federalism in Nigeria, students should be informed that Nigeria has a federal political structure where 3 levels of government exist, and they are the federal government, the state government, and local governments. Learning outcomes. At the end of this study session, it is expected that you should be able to understand the different systems of government that have been adopted by Nigeria since the 1914 amalgamation of the Northern and Southern Protectorates. 2. Explain some derivable benefits from the different systems that were adopted at different points in time. And lastly, suggest the best system that could probably be adopted in the country. Parliamentary system of government. Between October 1, 1960, when Nigeria attained political independence, and January 15, 1966, when the country's first republic was overthrown in the first military coup, it practiced the parliamentary system of government. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe was the first president of the Federal Republic, while Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa was the prime minister. Although there were slight modifications in the 1954, 1960, and 1963 constitutions of Nigeria, they were all improvements on all the earlier ones since the 1922 Clifford Constitution, and they all facilitated the operation of the parliamentary system of government in the country. In spite of the minor differences, we shall now adopt the 1963 Republican Constitution for our explanation on the parliamentary system in Nigeria. Students are implored to take note of the function of the principal officers in the parliamentary system so as to be able to compare them with their counterparts under the presidential system. Republican Constitution, 1963. On the 1st of October 1963, Nigeria became a federal republic. The 1963 Constitution provided for a parliamentary system of government. The Constitution retained the 4-region structure of Nigeria. Apart from the federal constitution, what is common to all of them, that is the federal and the regional constitutions, is a parliamentary system of government. Under the constitution, the position of head of state and head of government were separated. At the federal level, the head of state was called the President of the Republic, while the head of government was the Prime Minister. At the regional level, the equivalent of the President was the Governor, while the Premier was the equivalent of the Prime Minister. The President of the Republic. The President of the Republic was also the Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces. To be eligible to occupy the position, the candidate has to satisfy the following conditions. 1. He must be a Nigerian who has attained the age of 40. He should be a member of the House of Representatives who has won an election in the joint section of both houses of federal parliament. He must have no criminal record. He must not be indebted or bankrupt, and so on. President was elected through a secret ballot of the joint section of the House of Representatives and Senate with a 2/3 majority. If only one candidate, he must win absolute majority, and if 2 candidates, that is 2/3 majority, was required. The Constitution did not provide room for a candidate to be declared unopposed. The election of the president was by means of the secret ballot of all the members of the federal parliament, that is, House of Senate and House of Representatives. If there was only one candidate contesting for the posts, the Constitution required that he wins an absolute majority of the votes to be declared the winner. If there were two or more, the winning candidate was required to get 2/3 of the votes of all members of parliament sitting in a joint session. If none of the candidates scored the required number of votes, the candidate with the least number will be required to withdraw, while the remaining candidates will sit for another round of elections until somebody finally won. The president was normally elected for a period of 5 years. The office of the president could become vacant at the expiration of the period, or if the occupant died, resigned, or was removed. The president could be removed from office for misconduct, ill health, physical or mental disability that prevents him from carrying out duties of this office. The process required the submission of the President of Senate a petition signed by either 2/3 of the members of House of Representatives or members of Senate requesting that the conduct of the President of the Republic or his mental or physical condition should be investigated. The President of the Senate was required by law to present the petition to the joint meeting of the two houses of Parliament for consideration. If the petition was upheld, then it could be referred to an investigation committee to look into the issues raised in the petition. The report of the committee was expected to be submitted to the Parliament again, and if the report was approved by 2/3 of the two houses sitting together, the President stood removed. The President was designated as the nominal leader, the head of state. The main powers were vested in the Prime Minister. An anticipatory clause was made for the Prime Minister to advise the President to appoint someone who was not elected as a minister. The President was vested with powers of identifying an individual in the legislature who influenced a number of people as a Prime Minister. If the two houses sitting together adopted the report of the committee with a 2/3 majority, then the office of the President ceased to be occupied. Whenever the office of the President was vacant, either due to removal or incapacitation of mental or physical disability, the Constitution provided that the President of the Senate should become the acting President of the Republic. If the President of the Senate is for any reason unable to occupy the position, then the Constitution said that the Speaker of the House of Representatives should become the acting President. Whoever acted only did so for 3 months. This does not imply that the President was absolutely powerless. As we explained earlier, he was the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Republic. He also exercised the important authority of identifying and choosing an individual who appeared to him after a general election to be Prime Minister. In other words, the President actually appointed the Prime Minister and members of the Council of Ministers. The Council of Ministers was made up of the Prime Minister and other ministers appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister. To qualify to be appointed as minister, a person had to be a member of the House of Representatives or House of Senate. This implies that the person must have satisfied all the conditions that members of these two houses were required to meet. The Council of Ministers was a unified body whose members were collectively responsible for acts of the Council or its individual members to the Parliament. Like the legislature, the tenure of the Council of Ministers was 5 years. Members of the Council provided political leadership for the various ministries and departments of government. One of them members was required to have a minimum of 10 years post-call experience of holding a degree. He required special qualification. This was the Attorney General. The Council of Ministers was to advise the President, and the President was bound to accept their advice. Like in most parliamentary systems, the President was actually dependent on the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister was expected to keep the President fully informed about all aspects of governmental affairs and policies, and if the President actually requested for any information, the Prime Minister was expected to furnish him with them. Study session summary. Right from our first lecture in this course up to the immediate past, we concentrated on general ideas and knowledge about political life political science, and comparative politics. However, in Lecture 9, we concentrated more on the attempt to utilize the broad knowledge in explaining the Nigerian situation. In other words, we attempted to apply the various broad concept theories and political ideas to explain specific experiences in Nigeria. However, in Lecture 10, we concentrated more on the attempt to utilize the broad knowledge in explaining the Nigerian situation. In other words, we attempted to apply the various broad concept theories and political ideas to explain specific experiences in Nigeria. For example, we looked at the country's experiences under parliamentary, presidential systems of government, as well as in its operation of a federal structure and under various military regimes. It should, for instance, be noted that political participation and involvement in public affairs dropped under the successive military regimes, while the civilian administrations, through political mobilization, party activities, and similar others, encouraged more participation. It should also be noted that federalism in Nigeria tended to have done relatively better under the successful civilian administration than under the military regimes. End of study session 10. Thank you for listening.